Okay, so here we are, Mr. AI Guy and Charles McCarthy, the founder of Full Journey, and one of my favorite sites. I've been looking at all the different things from, Pica to, gosh, give me a hint. What was the other one?
Gen
Gen
2,
2,
Runway.
Gen 2.
I think they're the best in the world right now. Is Runway Gen 2 as far as like video quality and movement accuracy. Like they're pretty sharp right now. There's definitely the standard. I think everyone's trying to hit or pass.
Well, it's good to have a standard. So, what does it take to catch up? What's like the inner workings of something to catch up to that? Is it more horsepower on the computing end, on the back end? Is it the machine learning more? What is it that does it?
That's a
Some of my
great
questions might sound naive, but
No, that's a great question, and that's what my life is dedicated to, right? Like right now, all I can think about is how do I improve quality all the time. Um, the number one facet to improvement of the quality is going to be the quality of the model that you're using. Uh, Runway Gen 2, they have their own proprietary model. Pika has their own model. We're using a combination of tools I built with Zeroscope 3, which is an unreleased model that we collaborated with Surspence to train. So we're competing right now in a way with our models, but I think what gives us a little bit of an advantage is we're in a more nimble position where I'm not married to any particular proprietary model. And
Mhm.
instead, what I'm doing is I created on my Discord, I have a private channel of model makers that we're funding the training of all the models. So if you're a great model maker and you need some high end compute, hit me up and we can work something out. Uh, and so we have tons of models baking right now. We have all our model makers collaborating on how to get more out of the models, best practices, so that we can share that information, iterate over it, and we can keep on our building of these technologies. I'd say so. The model is a big part of it. I do a lot of middle work in between the model.
Yeah.
That's part of it. That'll improve. Um, we do. Another part of it is just like your delivery process. Can you actually deliver the content? Like if you've got a huge influx of users, which is what happens when you do this, can you actually deliver the content? Because it takes a tremendous amount of compute to do that. So we've got great partnerships with Replicate. We've got great model makers working on that. I spend every waking hour working on improving the video quality, which I think you saw like a 30% video improvement over the last 2 days.
I saw an extension too. You added like a few more seconds. It was 10 seconds, was 6 seconds, 10 seconds. Now it's 12 seconds. The
I'm
length.
going to keep pushing the limits of what's possible. That's what that's just the type of thought process that I have as I go, well, what's the best that's possible right now? Just like you said, what's keeping something from being better than that? I
Right.
look at where everyone's at right now, including Gen 2, and I go, well, that's like 1% of the way there. So my goal is to get all the way there. My goal isn't to try to get to 2%. So I look at 1% and I start to reverse engineer what's keeping this from being better, and then I start trying to put the building blocks together to get us to that next level. Um, I'm going on Thursday to the Forum conference. It's like an AI video conference.
Hmm.
Meeting up with a bunch of interesting people out there, and hopefully we'll be able to keep building our network to advance the technology, both for Full Journey and also for the open source. Because what ends up happening is these guys, they develop these models and they keep it proprietary, and all
Right.
they can ever do is iterate a little bit over that model, a little bit here, a little bit there, and they're so invested in that model. They spent so much time and money and energy training that model. They're sunk. So by what we're doing, we're bringing in all these geniuses to build these models, and what's coming out of those, we're releasing into the open source community, and everyone's going to be able to build and iterate on top of those And hopefully from that, we'll see an explosion of exponential growth that everyone, the entire industry, is going to get to enjoy.
I like it. I do notice there's a lot more. You offer a lot more on your Discord. Like I go to Pike and they kind of like stick to a certain time. Like we look good in this frame, at this frame rate, whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I
that
think
stuff, but
I
you don't.
haven't checked them out in a little bit. I just know their model's real good. But I think they do like 8 frames per second. I think we're doing 30. I think
Yeah,
they only do like short video clips with no audio. We do that plus pictures. We do GIFs. We do lifespan, deep fakes, music
music,
generation. We do speech generation with AI. We really are trying to be an entire
everything.
tool set, whereas these guys are all fantastic at one thing.
Yeah.
I want to be fantastic at all the tools you're actually going to need for video production. I don't want to be a novelty. I want to be a useful tool set. That's my goal with this.
I like that. That's more like I relate to what you're doing, not as a guy that's a developer or anything, but more of as a user. Like long time ago, years ago, I did real estate and I wanted a website and like, oh, how much do a website? And people were charging $8, $10, $20,000. Oh, you want Flash? That's a $50,000 website. It's ridiculous.
Could you
Now,
imagine you had a Flash
right,
website right now that you paid 50 grand for?
right? I ended up learning how to build my own websites and not by
It
coding,
doesn't
but drag and
surprise
rip
me.
and stuff, right? And then I'm like, I want a video. Oh, wait, I did television in high school. I worked at a TV station. Okay, I went and bought a MacBook Pro and a camera. I'm like, hey, I know what I'm doing. And next thing you know, I'm making videos. I'm like, I need a podcast. Oh, let's do this or whatever it was. I started realizing I'm not going to pay all these guys. And that's the way I see your business. Like, we're going to do everything, not just one thing, because if we're dependent on this or we don't investigate this part of the space, then we are really limiting ourselves to one thing. So if I was a guy that had to pay for a $50,000 Flash website, and it'd probably be $200,000 in the hole for all the Fiverr didn't even exist back then. It would have been more like 10,000 or
Yeah,
like,
the prices back then were so insane, right?
and that was because as we've seen everything from as we're seeing AI and we're seeing all these other social media and different things on the web develop, how specialized, how much the cost of entry, the difficulty of entry was to do that technology. It's like, who owns the magic trick? Only one guy in town can do the rabbit in the hat. That's why he gets the whole theater on Saturday. Next thing you know, everyone knows how to do it and nobody watches and nobody cares, right? I mean, silly analogy, but
no, it's right. It's market conditions, definitely. I think that's part of what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to democratize generation with AI. You know, like just we've got a bunch of A100 GPUs churning all the time right now, generating this stuff. They're like $20,000 for these GPUs, and you couldn't do what we're doing without GPU power like that. And as this gets better, it's going to require more. And so that's something that if we're not doing something like this, it's just not going to be in the hands of the masses. And I don't see why that should be the case.
For all you Bitcoin miners, use your computers for something else.
Oh, it's a shame. The Bitcoin miners, I think they're on like ASICs, so those wouldn't work for it.
That wouldn't work.
They're like very specific chips for mining. And
Yeah.
then the people that were mining Ethereum, what they do is they either sold those for cheap or they put it up on a company called like vast.ai, where you can basically rent their GPUs to use.
It's like kind of like cloud computing in a way, right?
Yeah, so those guys, they just like smoked themselves buying in on those on Ethereum miners, and then Ethereum went proof of stake, and you couldn't mine them anymore, and they're just like stuck with all these GPUs.
You become like a cheap version of AWS. We'll do it for less. Everyone's trying to underbid each other.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Like everything requires GPU that doesn't even exist right now. Like it would be great if we could just make this video real time, right? And super high quality and everything would look great. And well, it's going to take tons and tons of compute. So we all know what we want. We want to be able to go in that ocean to the other side. We know what it takes. It'll take a boat to get there. So we're got to build the boat, you know, like it's not We're just going to make it happen. We're going to get to the other side. We're going to build all the tools we need to get there. And along the way, the compute is going to arrive. NVIDIA is working hard on delivering that. Both the compute is getting better, the efficiency in which the software runs keeps improving. And at some point, we will be able to deliver this real-time movies on demand. Like you put in a text prompt and you sit down and you watch your own Netflix. I don't see why that won't be possible in the future. I think that would be a goal that if you were to play this out all the way to the end game, that's where you're going to end up at.
Do you plan on having that yourself? I think you should.
It's absolutely my end game result is I want you to be able to type in the topic of what your movie is going to be, and an entire movie is going to get played and made for you on the fly, and it'll give you endless possibilities for movies. You can iterate on the movies. You can go, oh, that was good, let's change that scene. You know, like I don't see any reason why, like that. It's like the Siriism of things. Like you use Siri. Hey Siri, what's this? Hey there, do that. Oh, can you tell me this? Set an appointment for that. Like that's how computers should interface in a way that is seamless in our actual lives. Right. And until it does that, we're just iterating to get to that point. I spent a lot of time working in virtual reality, and a lot of these things, these concepts, they tie in together between AI and virtual reality, because what your ultimate goal of virtual reality, and why virtual reality has not taken off the way that people that heavily invested have hoped that it would, is Facebook knew that it wasn't this form that people are going to be able to use in a daily life. What people really want is somebody sent me a really cool video just before I got on this, where they used AI and MRI wave machines to be able to track the patterns that are in your brain when you see imagery. Yeah. And then they were able to reproduce that same image that you saw without actually even seeing it, just by tracking your brain patterns.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen a similar video.
And it's like, that's what the end game of virtual reality looks like, where you can plug in without plugging in, and you sit down, relax, go to bed, do whatever, and you go on a journey that feels completely real and lifelike without you having to do those actions yourself. It's just interface with your brain. That's what the end game of computing looks like. And every one of these is a step to get us a little bit closer. If you look at like the original mainframes, everything we were working on, and how those interface, like at first computers didn't have screens, right? They only had printouts. They were just
teletypes. Right. Guess who used those in class? I'm gonna raise my hand. I want to ask you to hold for a second, because I want to point something out about where things are, where they're going, and where they've been. Right. So I'm obviously a lot older than you. I'm an ancient man. But the funny thing is back in my day, I was there when computers were just coming about. You know, I was born in the 60s, and my first computers I were playing on were like the TRS-80. They were cassette loaded. Also, we had the teletype ones that were also in the military and the Pentagon before that. And then later, let's play a game. And it's doing like some type of trivial question thing. And it's a printout, just paper and ink. It's a typewriter typing with these record size, discs, floppy disks, the size of an album, like a record album, like 12 inches, not like a little mini disc, and not like an SD card. And I remember there was this computer that came for sale, and I was a military brat, so we grew up overseas, and we would get the Sears catalog because we didn't know what's good to buy. The Italians were a little bit behind us at the time in technology, and the States had the newer stuff. So we're looking through the Sears catalog. We're like, oh my God, look at that computer. And I'm at my friend's house. We're like, yeah, and it has a printer. I go, what's that for? We didn't know what the printer was. He goes, that's where you put your homework in, and it does your homework for you.
Right? The dream of ChatGPT all the way from the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. We were hoping that it could do the homework for us, that we would, but now you don't have pen and paper. You have typing, you have pads, you have screens. You're not using those tactile things of that era. right?
Those are
So,
just input devices from a bygone era, right? Like input devices
mhm.
that uh, will eventually melt away because all they are interfaces to get from what's in our brain to the computer. But
Right.
if we didn't need those input devices, we could get there so much quicker. We could get way more accurate depictions of what we really want. So, um, if you look back on all this technological history and you see how it goes, it always generally evolves the same way. Like I look at us like we're back at the early internet days where we were watching like your pictures come in like this, or your
Yeah,
videos.
loading, just coming, blossoming.
So when
And
I started messing with the video stuff and I saw what the real early stuff looked like, it reminded me just of that. I go, I clicked and I felt it. And I was just a software developer back then, in the early 90s. And I go, this is going to go the exact same path, just way quicker. So I I love bleeding edge tech. I go, man, I really want to do something that's pushing the edge of what's happening right now. Everyone was trying to deliver imagery like Stable Diffusion, Mid Journey, and I go, that's cool, but we don't like really flip through magazines. We watch movies and watch TV, and books even like we listen to them generally now.
audiobooks, me.
So like the
Yeah.
concept that people are just really just wanting one frame of an image just didn't seem long term for me. It felt like a half step on the way there.
Right.
Like what's a movie? It's a bunch of those frames just with temporal consistency.
Right.
So we're starting to learn how to achieve temporal consistency like with stable diffusion and diffusion methods. Why can't we achieve that for more frames? So when I saw that going on, my instant thought was, okay, well, we should be able to make movies with this. So first thing I did was GIFs, like I produced a few frames, put them together. You can still see that on the Discord. That was like the very first cool thing I thought I did that got me on the way here.
Right. Right.
And what ends up happening is now, you send a request to me, and instead of delivering you 4 images, I'm delivering you 60 images that have temporal consistency tied together. And then we use similar technology to generate a soundtrack to go with it that makes sense with what you've wanted to produce. And that's essentially, we're still doing the same thing, but we're just doing it in a much bigger way of thinking.
It's on demand. Like I just earlier today, since I grew up in Italy, and I said, "Oh, cool, let me make my hometown that I grew up in Vicenza,
Oh, I
Italy."
saw that. I was
Yeah,
using that for my A/B testing, by the way.
yeah. I used it because it went into Italian. I go, "Hey, it's Italian. It's Italian music with an Italian theme." I go, "There's a consistency. That's pretty cool." And what got me into this was I wrote a book during COVID. I like never tried to write before. I wrote a book, 285 pages in 1 month. Like
Wow.
I listen to these audiobooks, like, oh, I can do that because so many years of being a hobbyist, editing, filming, all this stuff. I've always wanted to stay abreast of technology because I think I wrote something on the Discord, like, hey, when I was in seventh, eighth grade, that we get this video recorder that came to the school, and it was technology. And my parents, like, only geniuses use computers. Everybody at that era in the 70s, 80s, like, oh, technology is scary. And it was like, okay, plug the camera into the VCR, plug the VCR into the battery, press on, put in tape, press record. It's just a cassette player that does video instead of a microphone. Use the lens, right? And they were like, oh my gosh, he's so smart. He used this. It was hilarious. So I go, I don't want to be those people when I'm their age. And now I'm their age or older. And I'm like, I'm not going to, most people my
Yeah,
age
I think,
ignore
right,
it.
like it's different when you never grew up with that concept of interfacing with technology. Like the idea of going from interfacing with humans and animals and uh, anything that has any level of life form to it, like we know how to do that. It's a natural thing for us. But
Right.
to interface with technology is definitely an acquired skill that the longer you go in life without having done that, the more, like most things, the more scary it is to try to do.
Right.
And I think there's an added layer of, oh no, I don't want to break this or mess this up. It might be expensive or valuable or hard to fix. And then everyone's going to think I'm stupid. Like there's so many variables there that, but
I think you should fail forward fast.
well, I agree with you. And there are a subset of human beings that are like that, that are your engineers, your creators, your risk takers, and they push in areas where they're not comfortable, and that makes them feel alive. And there's most people who like to live inside of their comfort zone, and that's how human beings are generally wired. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those people make the world go. So what I want to do is I want to be able to cater to those people so they can create amazing stuff with AI without having to do this, I don't know, 2-year-long journey I've been on to learn how to do this, to get it to this point. Like I want you to be able to just pick up your phone and go, I want a dog playing with a rabbit, and you have it, like my goal for this is to put you in touch with what your creative side wants, to take away the constraints of technology or the limits of input format or the limits of what your previous experience with technology can afford you. If you can operate a phone and you can type into your phone or speak into your phone, then you should be able to create anything you want.
We're all equal on this platform and ability to create. Its question is, how creative are you?
And that's what should be the answer, right? Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Creativity is the hardest thing for AI to mimic. It's very, very, very difficult for AI to mimic creativity. It's a very complex and changing, evolving thing. What people consider creative and interesting now doesn't always stand the test of time. So it's going to always be hard for AI to be timely and creative in a way that could match or mimic human beings. But if you're not creative, then AI feels basically the same as that human being. So if you are creative, you can get AI to do really amazing things. So what I've been watching on the Discord is I've been watching the people create, and there are certain people, like every time they create, I just go watch their movies. It's like you start to find favorites, like you would like with TV stations or with anything. And there's some people that create items that fit into what your mood is. And other people, they create great stuff, but not really what you feel. So you start to, and I'm trying to understand how I can best orchestrate that so that it feels good for people. Like I was thinking about maybe making channels so that people could watch other people create their content or something, where I have creators specifically doing that, where they have certain times where they go and create.
Yeah.
I just think that's the most fascinating part, is seeing, I built this and I go, okay, that's awesome. I ran a couple prompts and stuff, and my stuff all looks bland and boring. It wasn't interesting. And then I go, okay, this is cool. I want to see what other people create. And then I saw and then when they start creating cool stuff, I go, oh, I could iterate on that prompt. And then I start creating something interesting. And then I go, oh, that prompt gets something that I was thinking that I didn't know how to express into words. So then I'm able to start pulling from people's prompts to get closer to what I'm looking for. And in a way, there's an acquired skill there, right? That's like the prompt engineering skill.
I'm trying to mix and match stuff that I've seen used by prompts, either given to me by Flow GPT or Chat GPT or Bard. I have both of those. And
all
it's
of these technologies, though, they have slightly different prompting styles.
They do. It's
those technologies like Chat GPT doesn't understand this technology yet.
I didn't think it did. Only thing I've taken from there is 8K or hyperrealism or things like that.
All of that stuff is cool. Yeah.
That's general, right? I'm asking you, is that general? If I were to put that in the prompt?
That's so what's interesting is when you run your prompt in mine, it's going through a lot of different layers. And so each layer has a different way of understanding what you want out of that prompt. So the more detailed and descriptive you are, the better you are going to get what you're looking for, and the more possible for variations there's going to be. But what I found that was getting really the most interesting results is when people were putting a year in there. So when they put 1930s, everything moves really quick and lots of And then
70s,
like the more
70s. I
modern
knew.
cinematic you go, the slower it goes. And I just find that so fascinating, the way the AI is interpreting what you want based on the decade that you put, you know?
It's learning, right? It's learning. Doesn't it reference, like, if you go to
So
70s film, it's a different, slower tempo than, let's say, at 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and then till now. I mean, it's really evolved. I mean, you used to like the movie Le Mans, like it was an old movie by Steve McQueen, and you like 15 minutes, he doesn't say a damn word. He's getting hitting in the car, walking around the car. It's like the buildup is like the guy that doesn't talk before the joke and has a long pause that goes there. And like today's generation would be click, bounce, bounce. The bounce rate on that movie would be 1000%.
right, yeah, nobody has patience for that anymore, right?
It's interesting, man. I mean, I love what you're doing here. This thing, I saw almost 1,000 people in there today. You guys weren't, I was like, I'm sticking with it because I feel like you guys are always pushing for the next level. And I don't want to get stuck to the proprietary. Like, one thing I did play with Gen 2, it gave me some instant
I think those
gratification.
stuff are great. I've got a subscription to Runway. I think they do amazing stuff. I really do. I'm a huge fan of what they do, and I've been with them forever. Those guys, they invented stable diffusion. Like those are the heroes. I feel like there's going to be lots of players in this field, and I'm not necessarily looking for somebody to stick with me because they're loyal to me. I want to feel the pressures of the market so that I'm constantly on the edge of my seat, creating the best possible product and service for my users.
I think you're going to do a great job. I think you understand that. And that's what I like about it. It's not just like, we get along. Okay, I'll be with you, even though that one's better. I mean, Gen 2 gave me some really cool results, but then you run out of tokens and it gets quickly gone. And with you, you're giving me this open reign to experiment. So I'm just going hard.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And we're going to always have free generations every day for free users. So like, even if you don't, like, a lot of people, they live in all different kinds of places in the world, or whatever their situation, they can't afford a subscription. I don't want them to be cut out. They'll still be able to create. So they'll be, and then I want to make it affordable for you to be able to create as much as you want. Like, it is expensive to compute to be able to do this, but
that's what I was like trying to understand how it's built. You said it's like all these GPUs is what you're using. And it's not just server space. It's how it computes this type of.
So I've gone through several different iterations of this as I've built it. When I first built it, we didn't have any users, and I was running it off of my home computer.
Yeah, and then a couple hundred more people later, boom,
a couple hundred people came like all at once, and my home computer sounded like it was a rocket ship taking off 24 hours a day, and the queue started getting long. So did some research, and I go, okay, well, I'm not really ready to launch this yet, but I don't want people to be cut out. So I found a cloud solution that I could build some instances on, set it all up. I wrote some code so that it would communicate with the cloud instances like a client server deal. And that's what we've been running off of for the last couple weeks. When you noticed like the big speed increase happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, big speed increase. Massive.
So our queue at one time, like when we got Matt VidPro, he did a video on us.
Yeah, that's how I found you guys. Shout out to Matt VidPro and Mr. Wolf. Both of those guys.
I watched. He brought us in, I want to say like 2,500 users in like an hour.
Yeah, so, that guy's great. I want to get him on the podcast one day.
Oh, it would be great. Yeah, when that happened, it was like a real eye opener to me. Like, if one YouTuber can do that and basically ground everything to a halt because everyone joined, started making videos like I wanted, but the queue immediately shot up to like 12 hours long. So I was like, that's not a solution that's tenable. So then I built out that solution that we've been running off of for the last 2 weeks. But it's been a little bit of a nightmare where I'm spending a lot of my time and energy coding infrastructure solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So I connected with the guys at Replicate. They are an AI cloud hosting provider, and they worked with me. I did some meetings with their team, and we have been able to. I just finished last night reprogramming the bot to use their system, and it's just so much better now. Like, I think we'll see when we get the next big wave of people. But I think if 1,000 people came in and started hitting it, like, it would be fine. And
I know
like,
that I don't have the biggest channel, so don't worry. You're not gonna.
it's all good.
I know
Well, I'm
you
ready
want
for
it, but
I'm ready for it. We used to process these videos as they came in, and now they're all getting processed at once. So it allows us to focus now on the technology and expanding on that instead of the infrastructure, which is really a blessing.
Now, the reason I asked you about how it runs in the back end, I kind of have an idea. You would never guess. I had one of the first pay-per-views on the internet with a friend of mine. It was MMA fighting out of Louisiana. We figured out how to rent the servers. This is before live streaming, Zoom, all these things didn't exist. 2007 in New Orleans. I think it was 2007, 2008. Yeah. Me and this guy built a website, just had a pay window opened up.
Who was the guy that you did the website with?
He's got a channel now, Legally Armed America. I don't have the name on the top of my head. It's called Bionic Imaging, is what I did it. And we didn't build it into a business. We did it as an experiment. We were not like, I think he got like 72 pay-per-views. It was like a lower tier MMA organization, just like King of the Cage, below King of the Cage, like way below, like local, you know what I mean? But we did it, and we had like mini cameras and stuff, like the little mini CCD tape, whatever, the little mini VHS type cassettes, but they weren't VHS, little.
You're like the high eights or whatever.
Yeah, they're below, different than high eights. I can't even think of the technology so old. I'm deleting it in my hard drive, right? But just like these little $300, $400, $500 video cameras that you get on sticks with a little switcher go into the servers. And they're asking us like, huh? And the only other people that did it at the time was the UFC. And I go like, whatever, just blew it off. Didn't know I was onto something, of course. But it was very expensive to rent the servers back then.
Yeah, it still is.
It's a fraction now compared to then, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, to rent that level of a server would be free right now, right? But the top end servers, they're expensive. Like, these aren't like AWS servers. This is a high end server. So
are AWS like the generic on the market for this, or they're not specialized? They're more like
that's
regular data. They're not.
I like we run our website off of AWS.
Okay.
Like to process like our models and stuff. We're using specialized solutions for hardware and software. They're running off of A100s and A40s, depending on which models you're using. Those are 40 gigabyte and 80 gigabyte video cards.
Wow.
So to give you an example, like I think the top home video card you can buy, I think, is 24 gigabytes. But there's more to it than just speed. It's capacity. Capacity is very important when you're trying to deliver to a large amount of people. When you're running like a 4090 is fast. 4090 is just as fast, honestly, as these, but 4090 is 24 gigabytes of VRAM. So you're limited to what you can do with that. With 80 gigabytes, I can do so much more. Like I can, I've got so many more plans of what I'm going to add now that I have this expanded hardware.
That's pretty cool. It's like, I was looking the other day for my own YouTube and a naive person at that. I kind of have an idea. That's like, I was running the numbers. I was actually using AI to look up what would it cost me if we just if we took a couple of these podcasts that I help out with and put them on their own thing. So, cause like went through some,
what do you mean thing?
Like my own channel, like not to be ruled under any other large social media company.
Oh, you're saying not to be under YouTube?
Yeah. Them or
them on
anybody
on your own website, basically.
Yeah. Just to see what that would look like.
That'd be a lot of data. You'd probably lose money.
Yeah. You'd be paying, I think you'd be paying like $6,000 a month.
Yeah, fun. Welcome to my life.
Right. No. So I'm seeing where you're at. Are you looking for investors? Are you looking for funding? Are you going to do any of that? I'm just saying that because people that watch this might hit you up. Who knows?
What's that?
People that watch this video might hit you up because I think you get a solid plan.
We'll see. I've had a couple people offer. I'd like to get the business model off the ground first. I think I'll be cash flow positive within a couple months.
That's what I hope for you. Yeah.
So if I am in that, I would be in a much better position to be able to have a conversation with investors for what I actually would need. Um, do I want an investor? Well, I would want an investor for a specific reason.
Yeah.
I have what I need to be able to run my company and keep iterizing and making it better, iterating and making it better. I don't have the money to hire the world's best minds and have them exclusively. So if somebody wanted to take this thing like to the very highest level and bring like, tons of money, then I would hire the world's best AI data scientists, model makers, the best minds in the business, and we would have an incredible AI company.
You just track it faster.
That's what I would take investment for,
Yeah.
not to just like make this a little bit better. Like I can float the $6,000 a month or whatever it's going to come out to. I've got another business that I make my living with. But like I said, I feel like that's temporary. The prices have gone up dramatically over the last month. But once I launch the business model, I've got a price matrix where I understand how much everything costs me, like literally every command, what it costs me, how many everything costs. So I'll be able to navigate that with my membership system so that it's not burning a hole through my pocket, So I do expect within a couple months we'll be cash flow positive. Fingers crossed.
No, I'm with you, man. I think that you have what it takes as a user of what you do. The attraction to me was, hey, how do I make movies? Like I had to go out in location to shoot something, film something, edit something. I'm like,
I've done that production. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Work.
Yeah, did it primarily for your other world, MMA. That's where I spent a lot of time filming. Some reality shows. I was kind of like GWC, guy with camera, they call it in Hollywood. Also, I'm in Gold's Gym filming famous people. I filmed a lot of famous people and didn't get paid for it. So I'll put it to you that way. I've been in the scene, but not doing the thing as a living, really. But enough to say, yeah, I've done the same thing as a guy that works for SAG, but I'm not really attached to any of that. But I like to create things. That's really what I do. And I got my cameras and stuff sitting off to the side here and probably never going to use them again if this keeps going. Like I told you, I wrote a script and I was talking to my friend. He's like, this is really good. I think it could become something big. I got to shop and talk to investors. And
I think the cameras are good too. Like you can do a lot of really interesting things with AI, like from original film, and just edit that into a completely different film, but using similar structure or stylization.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like you see that on Gen 2 or a couple other apps where you can change claymation or Lego people or animation.
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce that soon so that you'll be able to hopefully upload like a video of yourself or video of something.
Video to video.
Yeah, and you could say like make this woman or make this, and it'll be the same thing basically, but it'll be changed based on your text prompt.
That's pretty cool. So I figured you were coming around the corner on that. How hard is it to implement something like that? Do you have to like spend sleepless nights? Okay, put it together. Okay, launch.
Like I just love doing this. I was doing this for free forever. Like I just love building stuff with technology. So I don't really think of it like that.
I guess we're common. We have that in similar, like my filming.
Like I'm excited.
You're creating this. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like that's my mindset is problem solving. That's what I enjoy the most. I don't think you get to black belt in jiu-jitsu unless you really enjoy puzzle solving.
I agree.
For me, the how hard is it? Well, I don't think of it as hard. Like I think of it as hours. How many hours is it going to take? How many hours of doing what I love is it going to take? But it doesn't feel like how hard is it? Because everything's like the same level of hard. Just how many layers does it go?
How much pressure? Yeah. No, it makes sense to me what you're talking about. I just was like, okay, now I see what you're doing. It's at the beginning phases. I've shown some stuff to my friends that I like some they're like, it looks kind of weird. I'm like, trust me, hang in there. I'm 10 steps ahead of what you're making with this. You're making it thinking what I'm going to do with it. Mm-hmm. We're both kind of in that boat together. And I'm like, okay, I have the script written. What if I could just make my own movie? And I was showing it to my friend. He's like, yeah, we got to shoot a Sizzler reel. I go, no, we don't. We don't have to shoot a Sizzler reel. I made one with like Gen 2. I go, this looks like you're going to hire these guys. You're not going to have that set. You're not going to be able to afford it. We're going to go rent that car. You're going to go get these actors. What if you just made it like this? Who are you going to sell? And then I'm like, well, why do I need those people that you're selling it to? What about the cost of the investment? What if you don't need that cost of the investment? It is so minimal because you made it at home. I mean, people watch Pixar. They watch a lot of these anamorphic, these CGI type things, right?
People thought nobody would watch those originally, you remember?
Right. And they're some of the biggest selling things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most movies today, kind of where they live, they had a bunch of big studios in Wilmington, North Carolina. You know, they had some big movie studios. I think they were doing DC stuff. It was just a big warehouse with a green screen, you know? And I'm like, I don't even want to mess with that. I want this because you can go right into it. And then the voices and then the behaviors and the understanding how machine learning works, it's always improving. So you're implementing something that's working on itself to get better and get trained and learn, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're fine tuning the models constantly. It's not learning from prompt to prompt per se, but it's learning through human feedback and input.
So is that when you vote on it, or you thumbs up, thumbs down, like keep this one?
So I don't have that set up right now for the model. I'd like to, but like I said, since we're working on some other models right now, we're not fine tuning that particular model. There's a new model release candidate we're going to come out with next week that's already been fine tuned and adjusted. And then we have a couple other models in the works right now that are going to be a little different than the ones that we've been using.
That's exciting, man. So hopefully, one of these days you get some sleep after you have this thing done. I bet you're up around the clock.
Last night I got my first night of good sleep, man. I was
really
well, because when I was running all this off my own cloud code, there's a reason why most people probably don't do that. But since I didn't have enough sense to know that, I just set off to do it. And little things would go wrong, like at random times. So, like I'm essentially in charge of that. Like there's nobody in charge of like making sure the cloud instances are running right and everything. So yeah, like I just wasn't sleeping. So in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and I could see the queue was held up for no reason. And I'd have to like reset it, or like I had 4 guys competing in a fight show last weekend. And in the middle of the show, like someone texted me, "Hey, the bot's down. Like you got to like solve that."
You're in the corner. Okay. Put your hands up. Wait a second.
I literally pulled up my phone. I like SSH into the bot. Like I'm doing everything. It was crazy. So
you're like trying to give a guy water and you're reprogramming your bot at the same time.
It was crazy. So up until yesterday, when I got everything off to replicate systems, it's been smooth sailing. Thank goodness. It's been a great solution. So yeah, now I feel like I can sleep and I can focus on just the building of the technology, really like getting the feature set complete, getting it, addressing any bugs, any things like that. Like I could the last 2 weeks have been a nightmare of like trying to solve this cloud stuff. Like I'm sure these are normal growing pains for any startup, but since it's my first time doing this with a technology startup like this, I'd never tried to scale something before.
You're probably doing the work of 10 people, in my opinion. And that's the old model. And maybe the new model is one guy with a lot of powerful AI behind him. And that's
I think that's probably it. I have Epic Akuma, my buddy Walt, who runs Discord with me, who's running the business with me, and he's been great. He manages all the moderators. We've got some amazing moderators on there, beta testers. He helps me organize all the stuff and the to-do list. And he even built our bot on there, Reba, that does like the bug tracking and stuff. So like I have a good team of people that without them, I couldn't manage the Discord and all that and build all this at the same time. So it gives me the ability to go on there and just interact with the users. Like when I see them doing stuff, helps me to build things. Like the reason why my martial arts gym is successful is because I love martial arts. And so I train it. I fought in the UFC. I train nonstop. And so it's not hard for me to envision what the customer wants when they come in. I started off as a customer. I've been in it for 20 years. And I, inside the business, sometimes try to feel a customer experience. I kind of understand like what the consumer wants. But if I had to be completely focused on doing every detail in the whole gym, I wouldn't have time or energy to do that. So these guys, they give me the ability to go on the Discord and not have to worry about so much problems or what to do or how to address it. And I can just be a user and watch what everyone's creating. I get to go on there and create. I have a fun time with it. Like I built something that I really enjoy using. And I think
that's the key, right? If it's something that you love, like you built your own candy machine and you love candy, that's where you're at, man.
Well, and somebody else out there must love candy and they'd love to use it too. Like that's
Right.
my thought process.
I'm like over here. I'm like, dude's got a candy machine. It's my new buddy. You know, it's kind of like where it's at.
I got
What
the
other-
candy, buddy. Come get it, Len.
It looks like I need a lot of it. Yeah. And what? So let me ask you, what can people expect coming up, and what message you have for the members of the Discord? Because I'm going to put it out there just in show and tell tomorrow.
We've got Zero Scope 3 hitting very soon. We've got the release candidate right about to launch. We will be at the Deforum AI conference this weekend in Venice Beach.
Oh, nice.
And
I used to hang out there.
just expect us to keep developing the best stuff in the whole world.
That is phenomenal, man. And this is the first time you're taking your own venture to that level, right? So you're going from jiu-jitsu and you're going, you know what, I'm going to do something else because I've all the cumulative years of your interest and your passions have kind of like burnt to one point here, right?
So I did a VR venture at one point, but it was business to business stuff. So I sold solutions for VR video. We did, like, it's funny you said about your streaming event. I did the first live streaming event of a 360 VR MMA event. So we had I had built a solution that was hanging in the middle of an MMA fight, and you could watch it in VR from anywhere in the world, you know, and it was amazing, but limited, you know, like all these technologies, when they first come out, they're limited.
Server space, how many people, what can it handle? How much
resolution.
How many people can the bus fit inside and drive down the road with?
Well, that was part of it, but I had good partners, so they handled the capacity. But it's really just the technology. As it first starts, resolution is going to be low. It's going to get better over time. Like all these technologies were brand new. So I think that's the same with any technologies. The bleeding edge stuff, you're going to have to see past the imperfections, almost like revel in the imperfections, because this is a golden time, like where it's not going to be like that for much longer. There was a time where, I mean, I'm not that old. I remember watching TV as a kid, and we had one black and white TV and one regular TV, and the lines were always going like this, and you had to hit the TV to get it to like go straight, and then like you'd always get interference and stuff. And then like the vinyl records that we had, like they were like, in comparison to today, like horrible quality. But now you look back on it and you like love the imperfections of vinyl. And you look back at these old CRT TVs and stuff, and you go, man, like there's something unique that feels nostalgic and beautiful about these things.
Right.
And so I think that's the time we're in right now. And it's going to be beautiful when all this stuff's perfect and the masses come. You'll go, oh, I remember a time when it was like this, and it'll be a special moment.
I'm excited for it, and I'm looking forward to using it. And there's so much more depth. I just know you got to get back to managing your gym and taking care of your channel. But I think people have questions, and they probably want to find out more. I wanted to get to know you myself, and this is the first time I get to talk to someone making this stuff. But yeah, if anybody has any more questions about it, want to share their ideas on AI, we will be doing more podcasts on this channel, Mr. AI Guy, and I might even do it in character this time. But I want to thank you for coming on board, Charles. I'm going to be on there making videos on your thing today. It was awesome.
Awesome, Len. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on, and I look forward to checking out the podcast.